See, fundamentally what has happened is that what is the object and purpose of this whole circular? That is what we need to find out. And number one, as an industry, they are absolutely clear in relation to disclosure norms, howsoever strict they are, as far as beneficial ownership is concerned. There is absolutely no ambiguity that they are willing to disclose whatever information they have in their possession. And but the way in which the beneficial ownership has been defined, that is where the problem is, and it includes any manager who manages the fund, if he happens to be an NRI, OCI, PIO, or even reputed Indian resident institution, such as maybe Enam or Edelweiss or Kotak, or whatever it is, right? So the whole thing is that it is very broadly defined. I think if the intention is to collect information with economic ownership, what is really required, if money is laundered, you need information. I think nobody has a qualm with that at all. But the way in which the circular has come out, it almost puts total ban on any foreign fund which is managed by NRI, OCI, PIO and resident Indian institutions, which are actually approved and often encouraged by Indian government in the last few years to mobilize funds from abroad, channelize them into India and invest. So that is the crux of the issue. And number two, that as far as the circular is concerned, I think the industry felt that, normally SEBI has a very healthy practice of engaging the stakeholder before any circular is issued or any regulation is issued. Somehow or the other, this time it was not done. So they are little hesitated that, why not, we should, at least if you would have told us, we would have helped you, and we are here to help. Not to necessarily, I think you used word protest. It is not a protest, but I think the idea is to see that how you can cooperate and work together so we get capital. And the capital that is so long as a good capital, not a tainted capital. This is the objective, and let us work together. That is was the tenor of their, presentation. Because unfortunately, they couldn't get any representation.
Fair enough.
I mean, I don't know if there are too many global precedents to this. Now, of course, it'll be all very well if this is resolved amicably much before the 31st of December deadline. But otherwise, sort of what legal recourse, and how do you see the next several weeks and months progressing?
Yeah, I think first of all, I hope that this issue will be resolved now that it's escalated a little bit, so people would be understanding the total implications of the new circular, okay? And second thing is that, as far as the repercussions are concerned, we are creating an environment of uncertainty. People can understand things that are out of our control. But when the things are under our control, we should provide clarity. And that is what is often missing. And flip-flop, like a few years ago, we encouraged Indian residents and others to, set up funds and bring the money into India, and then suddenly we say no. So I think what we have been, suggesting is that let us have a consultative process. Let us bring in something that is healthy and actually brings a lot more healthy money into the country. So, and once again, nobody has qualms on the disclosure norms if they are proper and what are appropriate in conformity with the PML and other regulations. So I don't think anybody has a doubt, at least from the industry side, about disclosures, or it could be a myth that people want to hide, etc., etc. And that's the crux of the problem. But it's very important to, and that's why what has happened in the representation that has been made, there have been about 10 or 12 questions that have been asked to the government. Government must come out and answer those questions. That what is the purpose? If we know the purpose, then we can help to achieve the objective for everything that is being done. Why this threshold, why that threshold, why beneficial ownership. So once we have a clarity, we understand government's perspective as well, and respond in a logical manner. Today what is happening, there is a lot of speculation going on. Oh, it was the intention of government like this, so we in a speculative way try to respond that. Now we have no idea as to what went behind, how it got developed, what are the nuances that we have to deal with, high risk jurisdiction, and all those kind of questions which came up. So it becomes a little difficult. Now some banks have considered some jurisdictions as high risk and some jurisdictions non-high risk. Some have actually said that rather they classified India as a high risk jurisdiction. Does it mean that we can't get investment at all? So I think high risk jurisdiction simply means a jurisdiction which does not have a regime to deal with anti-money laundering, and there is rule and framework in place. If that is in place and if the banks don't follow, then banks should be regarded as high risk bank, not the jurisdiction. So there is difference between person who actually has to implement. So one is a jurisdiction itself with a framework. Second one is that when people don't comply, and that happens. So those ones should be disqualified, not the other one. So I think,
Sure.
and again, I'm sure that all these banks are very reputed banks. They are doing whatever they can. But these are the confusion concepts we are bringing into the middle,
Sure.
and regulatory discretion is delegated to the bank. And that has resulted in even the
Sure.
investment restrictions. So very
Yes,
interestingly,
sir.
what is happening here is that, okay, you ask the banks to, define high-risk jurisdiction. Once high-risk jurisdiction defined, that
Right.
means the investment limits apply, which is a
Right.
FPI issue.
Right.
So we are mixing up these issues, and I think if we sit together, I'm sure it will be cleaned up.